So what do you think about what the team have accomplished so far for the season?
I think we're in good shape. You know, we have the best record in the league, which is good. I don't think we've hit our peak by any means, but we're going along pretty well right now.
What do you think of what Brad Stevens has done in Boston? What makes him a special coach?
He's obviously very, very bright, not only in terms of X's and O's, but also in his demeanor, the way he handles players, the way he communicates. He's very poised and smart, and just seems to set a really good tone that is reflected in the way that his players play.
What's your guys' relationship like? I know you know each other a little bit.
Yeah, we know each other a little bit. Have great respect for him. We met before either one of us was coaching in the NBA. I think first time I met him, I did a Final Four broadcast when he was coaching at Butler, and was immediately impacted by just how smart he was. Obviously, to get Butler to the Final Four back-to-back years is amazing. So our relationship formed back then, and we had lunch before he became the Celtics coach. I was still in broadcasting, and he was asking me about coaching in the NBA, and we had lunch in Indianapolis, I think. I was in town to cover the Big Ten tournament, and then we've just stayed in touch. We usually get together for lunch in Las Vegas during Summer League, and maybe a phone call or two here or there. And he's one of the guys who you just can tell he just gets it. He's really good at what he does.
Steve, obviously the record is what it is, but with them being one of the teams that you monitor, what are the things that stay on your radar throughout the season?
About Boston?
Yeah.
Obviously their defense, number one in the league. They put a lot of pressure on the ball. Got a lot of guys who can switch. They've done a good job filling that roster with versatile wings. Jaylen Brown and Tatum and Hayward, obviously, when he's healthy. Morris. I mean, they've got a really good roster. And then Kyrie is spectacular, and we know him awfully well from a different uniform. But they're just really, really well coached, great defensively. And the biggest thing from our first game was they went to the line 38 times. We fouled them too much. We had control of that game, but our fouling allowed them back in it, and then the game slipped away from us.
Where do you feel the guys are at in terms of that issue with the fouling, and where they go from here with
In terms of what?
the fouling
I think we're okay. I mean, we're not at our peak form defensively, obviously. We've not been great of late, but I don't expect us to be great all year long. Not this year, not this season, not with what we're facing and what we've been through. So as long as our guys are aware of our current status, and where we need to be, I'm fine with that.
You mentioned Boston's defense. What stands out about their offense and how much they run things through?
A lot of great movement and motion. Horford can extend out to the three-point line. He's an excellent passer and screener. And so they're very difficult to cover because they cover so much ground. They shoot a lot of threes. They get a lot of offensive boards, and they run good stuff. So they make you work defensively.
What would it take to bring the big man game back? And do you think NBA teams are equipped with personnel nowadays to kind of go over like the low post game, playing with your back to the basket and things like that?
I think there's two reasons that has almost disappeared. The main thing is the rule changes that were instituted in the early 2000s. You can basically play a zone now. Before the changes, you couldn't zone. You had to guard a guy one-on-one. So now if somebody tries to post us up, we can send two guys over there. It used to be illegal defense. It's not illegal. So it's much easier to guard the post with the modern day rules. Two is just the modern day young big men grow up wanting to be Kevin Durant and Dirk Nowitzki. And so you get these guys who are unbelievably skilled away from the basket, And I think it's really hard to develop a low post game without years of work. You know, Tim Duncan was at Wake Forest 4 years. He worked on that low post game every day against great competition. He was ready when he got to the league. Nowadays, you got guys who generally are coming in after 1 year of college, you know, a 5-month college season. Very little work on the block, both in high school, AAU, and then they're in their one college season, and they show up to the league without a low post game, and they're more likely to be skilled in terms of their ball handling and three-point shooting. It's just a different focus and a different sort of evolution of that position.
Can a player thrive if he's strictly a back-to-the-basket player and can't shoot the three? I know Joel Embiid, he's probably the closest, but Embiid, he's probably the closest, but he has a three-point shot as well. Can a player just a strictly back-to-the-basket thrive in today's game?
I think so. As long as you can guard at the other end. I mean, that's the biggest thing is, you know, you get a big guy who can't get out and cover the three-point line and three-point shooting. It's tough to play him. And so you can get a guy who's good on the low block and throw him the ball in there, and it's still very effective. We play a lot through David West on the low block, and there are still guys out there who can do it. But it's a different game, different rules, and then it's a two-way game, you know, and that's the biggest, I think, difference now from 20, 30 years ago. The radius of defensive ground that big men had to cover 30 years ago. You think about the old days with the Lakers and the Celtics. If you ever watch the 80s finals, you know, on NBA Classic, the big guys are basically covering that much ground. You know, Kareem never had to come out and guard a high screen and roll. And neither did Robert Parrish. And in the modern game, those guys would be put in a high screen, and Steph Curry would be shooting 30-footers. So it's a totally different game, and that's why it's so hard to compare eras. It's so hard to project, you know, how players back then would play, and today players work on their three-point shots way more. Everything is different, and so you have to adapt to the, you know, what we're facing today.
Steve, what do you think of the NBA watching that, I guess, the live competition
Yeah.
you're going to have with the officials and the players?
I think it's great. More communication, the better, and more transparency. I think it'll be really good for our guys to be face-to-face with some officials out of the arena, maybe in the practice court, for real conversation, a chance to get to know them, personalize the relationship a little bit. So I think the league's doing a good job with that.
I guess they're saying, like, before the All-Star break, you're going to meet with teams. Do you have any personal feelings, like what issues need to be addressed the most in those conversations?
Not really. I think it's mainly just sitting down, getting in front of each other. You know, like anything else in life, it's much easier to just talk something out, and that way each side can bring up what's important to them, and then and you just initiate a conversation and you figure some things out.
How has Kyrie made the Celtics better or changed them? Or has he?
Oh yeah, I mean, he's one of the best players in the league. He's one of the best one-on-one players in the league. So he's a handful. So you put one of the best players in the league on any team, that team's going to get better.
What has been the foundation to build the leadership in the team right now?
Just our players, you know, the leadership within. You know, the veteran guys set a tone, and the team leads itself. You know, you have guys who work hard every day, and that sets a good tone, and they support one another. And you have to have good guys who want to play together in order to have success in this league. Thank you.